Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today at Answers from the Universe. I am your host, Jessica Ariel Morocco, and I'm so happy to be here and happy to be here with you today. It is a beautiful, wonderful, sunshiny summer day here in north of Boston, Massachusetts, and enjoying the weather, looking forward to the 4th of July, even though people are worried about things happening. I always trust that the universe is here to protect us and surround us with love. And also, that power of love is much more powerful than anything else that can be around us. So, you trust in that. Also, we've been doing this. My format for the show has altered during the past 3-4 weeks. Primarily because I began getting this transmission of information. Now, at first I was highly reluctant. I really, was not regarded as a channeler. I have not regarded myself as a channeler, although even though I do it quite often, all of my books are channeled. However, I felt the urgency of it. I felt that, my connection to the other side, and I felt that this being that I had been communicating with was of a good source, and his name, Andronicus, that he goes by, saying that he's from the sector of Andromeda. And so, I just sort of evolved. And also, I just want to say that, it probably could not have been presented as eloquently as it has without JP. And I just want to express gratitude. JP, thank you so much for helping bring this transmission forward as it continues going on. I hadn't expected that it would be go this far.
Do you know, it's really funny, Jess, that all my life I've been in a position of having to speak, and I'm not really much of a speaker, but sometimes I found, I used to, like when I was a kid, they used to make me read the Bible in the synagogue, to all these people, and sometimes it was only to 5 people, sometimes it was for a full room. It didn't matter, it just was the same focus, and strangely, it's an interesting feeling to do this sort of thing. But when I started reading, there was one moment, and I recognized it when I was actually reading the Book of Mormon, and I was reading it out because at some time my wife was a Mormon. She's a Muslim now. It's a long story. she's had more religions than people had cars. I'm not kidding. Anyway, she was experimenting with Mormonism, as you do, and there was a time, and I started reading the book and reading the words of Joseph Smith. And because he's not a distant spirit, he was only like in the, a century and a half ago. So, when I started reading him, the words had an extra power to them. I could feel, as I was reading that, I could feel this energy moving through me. So, that was quite interesting. And then, it's happened various other times. And when I voice Andronicus, I'm feeling him. It's like, I've been reading these books recently, and I could really feel the people that I was reading through. So, I can sense Andronicus' sort of sense of desperation in the first channelings. Because, the other thing, we haven't really spoken about the channelings as a whole, but what has happened is, like, the first one that we got, the first one that you received, was a kind of almost like a cry for help.
Yes.
And then the second one was like, okay, well, we're past that stage now. This is how we're doing. And it's been a kind of improving situation as they recover their civilization, as it were. And it's like, this is like a letter that somebody might have written to a friend, in the 1940s, say. Right at the beginning of the 40s, the whole world was in war, and nobody could see the end of it. And yet by 1943, things had started turning around. By 44, The British had invaded Germany. 1945, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, nailed the whole thing down. That's it. And then people started getting really hopeful.
Yes.
And rebuilding.
Like a succession of events.
Yeah. And indeed, I think Andronicus, he mentioned, that we're more or less like war-torn Poland in 1946. That would be the place where we kind of left them, if you like.
Yeah, I think he was referring to that's how they felt. There was just this servitude, and at first, the first images that I got of him was he was in a prison camp. He was merely a number. He was lined up. Their skin was dirty. They were lined up. They were wearing ragged clothing. They were going through, passing through. It looked like stop points where they had to check in. They weren't allowed any freedom. They everything was highly monitored. I can sense the desperation, and my heart really went out. And I was like, well, why am I viewing this? What's going on here? And then I recognized how many movies that I had seen where there was some hints of this type of futuristic lifestyle. And then he told me, he said, we have been projecting this experience to the universe, to whoever can pick it up, as a plea for help. And instead, our human experience had somehow we got the message etherically, and it converted into movies. It somehow got brought into movies, thinking that this was our future. But in some way, I think that he was providing us information because he was identifying that we are somewhat heading in that direction unless we make some changes, some serious changes, and that also this is a parallel to what our experience is today. So, yeah, the war-torn Poland was the term that he used, that this is our future. And so he talks more about that during his transmission that we're going to read today. And so you can see where he's at, where he's gone from a struggle to actually resetting their experience and knowing how the process of time travel to reset and change things and alter things. But then also, beginning to provide advice for us, because now he's feeling more settled and now he goes to a much better level. So it's progressive in a very good way. And this is to encourage us in our experience to move forward and to not be discouraged that things are difficult at this present time. So are we ready to share are we ready to go?
I think so. I'm just trying to find the page on Facebook where you mentioned this series and just put a post in. Are you close to that you can put?
I posted on
the thread that we've been posting on.
The private group of Simons.
Yeah.
And that's the only place that it was posted as of yet.
Yeah, but I mean, when you say, have you posted today's show there?
No, I haven't.
All right, so I'm just going to look for that and paste something in there. I can't find it. This is a very, 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 very busy thread, isn't it?
Yes, let me see if I can. You're looking for that thread.
So yeah, and just to kind of fill in what's going on around here is we had the most incredible storm last night.
Wow.
That really it was bizarre, because most of the time you have the lightning goes from the sky to the ground or from the ground to the sky. This was like cracking across the sky. And there was like 3 levels of clouds, and the clouds were, the lightning was passing between clouds between level 2 and level 3, away from us, And so it was all kind of broken up, and And oh yeah, an incredible thing. It started very, very quickly as well. It's very.
Yeah, we've had some unusual storms as well. Yesterday, I went to meet someone for coffee, and I looked up, and there's this dark cloud. It was just like completely circular. I was like, I wonder if that's a craft.
All right.
But it was literally like a storm cloud, just in one location, right above where the coffee shop was Starbucks coffee, something like that.
Rainbow over
and
Starbucks.
Strip mall. And just looking up and seeing it, I was saying, wow, that is really strange, because beyond that it's clear in all directions. North, south, east, and west. It's just hovering right above it. So, yeah, and it got unusually dark for no reason. And the past couple storms have, the rain is coming in sideways because of the wind.
Wow. Oh, you got it.
Flooding
Excellent.
somewhat.
Okay,
is that the appropriate link you were looking for?
Yeah, there we go. So let's just I'm just going to put a post on there.
Okay.
Have you got any gigs coming up? Any festivals or things like that coming up?
Well, I do my frequent gatherings that have my classes, New Life Endeavors classes, where we discuss meditation and work on, it's essentially life coaching, discussing all different aspects of our lives and how we can raise in our consciousness, learn to problem solve, and finding the answers from within. In addition to that, I do the psychic fairs, where I provide readings, and it's more than a psychic fair. I usually do a presentation and provide Akashic record readings for people. But we're looking at book signing events that are coming up, and I'm preparing to go to New York City and do a book signing event for The Sierra Violets in the Grass, which is kind of exciting. It is, highly a metaphysical book. It talks about past life regressions, Akashic record readings, stepping in and out of dimensional space, extraterrestrials, the paranormal, and it covers all different aspects. And also interwoven in all of that is my life. The succession of things starting when I was a very young child and seeing a spacecraft over my house. It's just a series of unexpected events. Some people have referred to it as tangential, or having, these tangents of going from daily life into this unexplained reality. But helping people to become aware of other dimensional space, and that just because we can't feel it or step into the space, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, nor does it mean that it is not in some way influencing our experience each and every day. And also what's going on in the other dimensions do have an influence on our governments, have an influence on people. That includes loved ones that have passed over, influential people that have passed over, and all the other friendly beings and maybe not so friendly beings that are in those dimensional spaces, as well as visitors such as Andronicus. So that's moving ahead. Yeah, when I have the book signing, I'll let everyone know. So if anyone's in the area, I would love for you to come by and see.
Wouldn't it be great to eyeball people? I love, I used to do CB radio. You ever do CB?
No, I didn't.
You know what I'm talking about? Citizens Band radio. Like Smokey the Bandit.
Uh-huh.
So it was a big thing. And you speak to people, and all people are voices. They're just voices in the dark. And when you actually meet someone, it's a real buzz. We used to call that an eyeball, when you meet eyeball to eyeball. And so it's like come and have an eyeball. But anyway, there you go. I have made the announcement on Facebook, on the Facebook group. So if anybody's interested, or anybody's going to come and join us, do come and do so. I'm just going to close my Facebook down so that I don't get any interference. I've got the chat room open as well. So if anybody's got anything there going on, that's fine. And I'll also have a quick look on Ever Beyond Radio. We have so many things going on now. It's quite incredible.
Yeah,
so,
you keep on expanding more shows and all sorts of things.
That's right. I started the show last week. I just decided, right, I'm going to do a spontaneous show with the fellow talking about energy research.
Yes.
And that was quite interesting. And also his mental, what is it? Sort of a mental exercise development sort of thing, so you can read faster and remember things better.
Well, the free energy part and some of these other experiments of different types of inventions are what the things that we have not yet been able to experience in a mass level. And so a lot of people have been, creating these things privately because, the controls of the way things are. But some of the Tesla ideas have not been implemented, and it's time. It's time for us to be able to access whatever we need to live freely. And if a person wants to, dig a well, they should be able to dig a well. So on. Thank you for doing that show. I appreciate it. I'm sure many others will as well. And when can they tune in to hear it?
Well, it's when I run it, it'll be just after this show.
Okay.
I won't do it every week because I won't have any guests. But I might have Jay Larson on again soon. Now he's, bless his heart, he's better. He was very ill. Jay Larson was a guest of mine, and you could hear he was like he was very ill. So he said he spent a couple of weeks in a parallel dimension while he was in a coma. God bless him, and he's back now. So that should be interesting. But he's talking about energy conditioning systems that decouple the scalar wave out of your fridge and create cold electricity and make motors run cold instead of getting warm. It's bizarre stuff, yeah. And that's all available just with a few very cheap components, and that's quite. But I haven't had a chance to experiment with it. Anywho. Let's have a quick look at the old scoreboard, see if there's anybody tuned in here. I might have some. No? Nope. Let's see. Station is offline. Why is the station offline? That's why nobody's listening. Let me just get that going. Right. Okay, there's further on up the road. We're further on up the road, and we're back online, and everything's good. Okay,
Wonderful.
So... Hi, Jess. We are now going to start doing some readings. How about that?
Yes. So as we mentioned earlier, and that will be in the recording since we were offline, that I am going to be talking. This is Answers from the Universe, and I'm going to be discussing the Andromeda transmission, which is part 4. I had never in a million years thought that this would go this far. It started off one day, and I thought, well, let me share this information. And I thought the being that had visited me from, through communication from Andromeda, by the name of Andronicus, that if I revealed and shared the information, that we could resolve whatever the issue was. And I find that once a week he comes to me and he wants. Before you know it, I'm writing 3 pages. So this is the 4th transmission, and JP is going to wonderfully assist me in the process of reading it. And as part of the narrative, he will be Andronicus. So JP, if you'd like to start.
Okay. Well, there seems to be a preamble to this. I'll just get these. I've got 3 torches standing up just in front of my mixing fader, which is like deadly because I'm just going to reach forward quickly and knock them all over. So you hear this. That's why you hear these crashing sounds, because I've got these things standing up, then fall over and create clattering and clattering. Anyway, so there's a preamble. So, dear loved ones. Our operations of assignment have allowed us to virtually summons the awakening in our planet. It has been a memorable gateway back to our natural way of living. We can rejoice and feel liberated as we freely eat from our untainted land and rest in our homes above ground again. It was invigorating to step out onto the rocks and see the vista of many wild plants with rich nutrient leaves filled with sumptuous juices and overflowing abundance of succulence as we had previously experienced.
How wonderful to hear from you. What a joyous event to see that all went well for you. Tell me about the plants. It sounds like they hold water.
Yes, it is our Kukow plant, Kukow, that has a fluid-like substance filled with nutrients that match our body physiology. It is our primary source of life and rich with photons of chlorophyll and radiant vibrance of energy, similar to your chi. You just had chlorophyll yesterday. I watched you drink it. We are sustained by plant life and do not require animal proteins as some of you do. However, some of you originated with us and consume juice as we do now. You may feel that some of you are not healthy, and it is because your memory of being with us that you are requiring higher concentrations of chlorophyll and other succulent ripe plant life in your diet now. Try adding this to your diet and you will feel more alert and fulfilled. We do not require nor desire animal proteins. If you were to see the animals that thrive in our environment, you would agree that they are not as palatable as one would like. Our natural environment has a permanent vapor or mist-like substance that is always present in our upper atmosphere. This protects us from uninhabitable cosmic rays that would injure our fragile skin. It is similar to your ozone layer that protects you from the sun. However, you have evolved to adapt to many types of environment, but discover you need more to sustain yourself. Our environment was not altered for many years until the Vinkalla came. When they discovered our weakness, they sought to alter our environment. I know humanity blames themselves for the current environment issues you're facing. Now that we are at a point of balance, we can supply better insight to you in regard to what may have happened there.
Tell us more about it. How can we regain our planet and the controls of the environment to prevent recourse of destruction in our water, air, ozone, land, and more?
You must be diligent to speak forth and always inform others about abuses. This puts them on hold and keeps them from doing further injuries to the planet. Your voices, your images shared amongst each other, help keep a watchful eye over the planet. Unfortunately, the Vinkalla have been doing this damage for some time, and now you may feel it as a race to catch up, and some things cannot be recovered, or so you believe this to be the case. The chemical experiments and scientific discoveries were presented to your realm in order for you to grow and better explore your world. The application of these discoveries were then used for wars and poisons on the planet that ended up in your water, soil, plant life and food source. None of this knowledge was used appropriately. Since you don't see the Vinkalla and your population is large, your communication is limited regarding the true issues at hand. You are missing the root cause of what is happening.
We are all very aware of these problems on our planet now, and it only makes us feel more helpless, as if no one is listening, and the larger part of the Earth's population are so inundated by their own problems of war, dictatorships, economic problems, poverty, etc. What can we do? Are all of these problems a facade to keep us from reaching the core, the root of all, to suspend the actions by a unified mass collective?
Yes. We will help you get through the facade, the hidden window of deception, to unveil the core problems which lie and lay beneath you.
Are you saying that they are in the inner Earth, or in a dimensional space beneath us, or parallel to us?
You're getting closer. They are in the inner chambers of the Earth's core and have the ability to move in and out of dimensional space. You have seen them. You and many others have seen them in their dreams or at night as they do their work most efficiently. This is the reason why many find themselves up late at night in meditation and awakened at 3 or 4 in the morning. They are issuing their allegiance to destruction. Their intent is to take the planet from you, to destroy the upper atmosphere as they did to us, so it is no longer habitable. As of right now, your planet is at a crossroad. You have two potential realities. One, your Earth and many of your inhabitants are destroyed through wars and environmental incidents. This is the reason why we directed you to visit the Georgia Guidestones, to see their intent: decrease the population. If they destroy the upper atmosphere, your civilization that is left will have to find refuge in caves or underground cities. The other possibility for your civilization is that you flourish and take back your planet through better practices towards the planet and more peaceful living. You may begin to realize that there are more environmentally minded people around you now. This has altered the life path of many who are getting into better practices and more mindful intentions of lifestyle in this direction. Some have become the guides to how living closer to a sustainable lifestyle is possible. It is important to remember how necessary it is for all of you to understand as a collective group of life-giving beings, to remember the source from where you came. You are not presently living in your true reality and form. You are very much out of sync with who you are and the potential of where you are going. Your technology is from the outer regions of higher advanced societies that still exist and thrive, but they are not monitoring how you use these technologies. We were intended to support you in this area, however, we were not able to fully support your civilization until now. Now we are clear and without hindrance or obstruction to communication. Our collective group desires the best for all of you. We desire that you should be whole and free to experience your natural habitat without concern of war, tainted food sources and destruction to your surroundings in search of fuel. More is coming to your youth. Remember, your children have the answers to restore your planet. Your elders will have the wisdom to guide the new information in. You, my friends, are heard from the far reaches of the universe.
I am so grateful to hear that, and I'm looking forward to sharing the information with others. I can feel the strain of some who believe we are alone to figure it all out, that no one actually cares.
You are heard and you are loved. Our compassion is overflowing, the tears of the mothers and fathers who weep for their children and the future of many generations to come. We are sending you the inner strength to thrive, to live, and attain the consciousness to be with us in our great journey of expansion and growth. One day we will be as one. Others will join as well. The Vinkalla will also learn. Many of them are already caught in your karmic cycle and will learn as we all have.
Is there anything more you would like to share with us?
I must depart for now. You are doing the right thing by sharing this message. Though it may seem troubling from my earlier communication with you, the outcome has been quite gratifying to know you and many others will understand about how our experience has been similar to yours.
Thank you. I do understand. And I'm so glad you have shared your information with us. I could see that the plants you ate, I was able to see the plants that you were eating and the happiness you expressed this time around. Will I be hearing from you again?
Yes, we are here to support all of you now. Be confident that you are no longer alone, and our guidance to your planet in a much more focused and protective way. Our confidence in your higher ascension has been elevated with much satisfaction. You shall endure. Goodbye, my friend. Andronicus from the Andromeda sector, 33-1-8, upper regions beyond the solar field. 2 sentient levels of sequential time quarters of non-linear reality, for those searching for our status and coordinates. Peace, love, and harmony to our galaxy.
And I watched a field of meteors circling in spiral formation, and not sure exactly what I was looking at. I also had the impression that Andronicus and others were traveling. So that was the end of the transmission number 4 from Andronicus.
Yeah. Oh, that didn't take like long, actually, did it?
No.
It took about 10 minutes.
No.
So that was, can we speak about, like, well, first of all, parts of it, put some picture, there's some good pictures there.
Mm-hmm.
And the wild plants, the first thing that I thought was something like an aloe vera.
Yeah. It was like an aloe vera. That's probably. It looked very juicy.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. It was, it could have been. It looked green, but one of them looked sort of not like a melon, more like flat, and but it was like a leaf, but very thick.
Yeah, almost like they look like cactuses.
Yes. Yeah.
Cacti.
Some kind of,
Cactini.
they call this succulent, which, is clearly cactus, but it also looked very jungle-like, too, at the same time. So, the other thing that I saw was this vapor, and I believe that's why he brought up the vapor that I was seeing, or the mist, because it had a density to it. It seemed to be over the entire space, almost like you ever, look at a rainforest or a jungle and you see this, settling of some kind of misty something there, and so it filters whatever light's coming through. So there's not direct sunlight, everything's filtered. And that's what it looked like. It wasn't very bright and open. It had a dimmer appearance. But you could actually see the waves of the vapor moving through. It was unusual. And possibly a color to it, maybe having a soft pink tone to it or something like that. So the lighting was unusual. But the grounds were very much like a jungle or a forest combination. Really dense. So I don't know, the succulents are usually attributed to warmer weather, so I'm not really sure how or what they were, but that part was interesting.
What was the feel of the temperature like? Was it cold or?
It was hard to tell. I didn't pick up anything either way. I felt like they have these, maybe a physical body, but maybe in some part etheric. So the temperature wasn't anything that was striking to me. It looked temperate. It looked very, very comfortable. And it looked extremely inviting.
And they were clothed?
But unusual.
How was, could you see clothing?
Yeah, they were wearing clothing, but it wasn't jackets, light, kind of, what would appear to be loose-fitting cotton garments. Not so much linen, where linen has a stiffer, more rigid feel to it. The garments seem to be flowing. Kind of tunic style.
Would you say there was a style to it? I mean, like, would it be like Greek or Roman or medieval or, does it fit any of our time periods? Style-wise?
There are times when I've looked and he had an outfit that to me looked Asian, like a Mandarin collar, and maybe like a karate jacket or something, tied. I don't know if that's called a kimono, or just kind of tied, and then like jujitsu pants or something,
All right, so it did have a sort of an Asian sort of feel.
Yeah, it did. Very simple, like no jewelry, just and basic light, like a white color or a really light gray, maybe.
And what about shoes?
I didn't notice any shoes. It could have been that they were almost barefoot, but it might have been sandals. I just didn't notice.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I saw him barefoot a few times. I also felt like there were times where I felt like he had tattoos of numbers on his head. Or, that tattoo or kind of an imprint
barcode.
of numbers. Yeah, so they were...
Machine-readable barcodes, yeah.
Yeah, so it was almost like they were identified as through a number.
So here's the thing, he says, they sent images of this situation to Earth, and they were picked up, those images were picked up and made into movies.
Yes, he said that in their attempt to communicate with us, people were getting their impressions in their struggle. And, of course, some people who were creative were tapping into that energy and would get these impressions and dreams and write about this stuff. And what they were essentially trying to do is communicate with us in the past. I don't know how many years. But, literally displaying, we got really, really close to those two parts that came really close to their experience. One was the Andromedan strain, which was, we talked about this earlier on in the first transmission, whereas the Andromedan strain was about a virus of some sort that came in from out of the outer regions of space, and in essence, the Andromedan strain was their transmission, or they're trying to share with us that, hey, listen, you're getting the same problem we're getting, and that is this intrusion of these beings who are telepathically controlling us. And that was the Vinkalla. So that was the real strain. That was the illness. That was the virus. That was the sickness that was coming in. And so they were trying to forewarn us. And he told us instead the interpretation for the movie was brought up because they didn't fully understand it. They thought it was an illness.
So these days, we would understand that as a mind virus, wouldn't we?
Yes.
That's the,
yes.
What film? I mean, we've certainly seen that in episodes of Star Trek, in the original series, and in the new generation as well, in that they would be affected by some invisible force, some radiation, and then suddenly Spock decides, or Kirk snaps out of it, or something like that. And, so many times, I think even the first episode, something like that happened. Just to show that something invisible, or beyond our ability to visualize, yeah,
sure.
Image, is actually influencing us in a really incredible way. And I'm still convinced that yeast is a key to this, and in that it's a vector which is used to control humans, like Morgellons, but in a kind of organic
controlling
way.
People through poor diet, which perpetuates a problem of illness.
Yes.
And so if you're ill, you can't think clearly, you can't create clearly, and you can't be as productive and work in a communicate in a way where you're actually making a difference. So it just perpetuates another problem. But
so hang on a second. You've got an intergalactic stalker here. He's watching you drinking chlorophyll.
Yes. I had a sip of chlorophyll.
What, did you have a juice drink or something?
Yes, it was a juice drink that was chlorophyll too. I was starting to lose my voice, and I thought it might be viral, and I thought too, I was just getting the impression, of, I have been working on changing my diet, eating more green things, which I just went out and picked lettuce outside and some herbs outside and made a nice salad. So just trying to eat some really green stuff and thinking about green drinks and vegetable proteins. And so I just had a sip of chlorophyll that I purchased, and he watched me drink it. And so decided to bring up this plant that he that they would eat, and it was, to them it was very delicious, and it kind of the juiciness of it reminded me of like a fresh melon or watermelon or something,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like he's pretty close. I get the impression that sometimes they'll just start talking, and then I don't hear from him for a while, and then almost like clockwork, he sort of shows up around Tuesday or Wednesday, and has a message.
Getting ready for the show. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to complete my thought about that whole thing of the mind control part of it, which is literally mind control. It's interesting because I have certifications in hypnosis and certifications in regressions, and I understand the power of suggestion, especially when a person is in a passive state. So I think you're highly responsible for what you're inserting and putting in a person's subconscious, because it can alter them, it can affect them in a negative way, and I try to be a good guardian and steward of that ability. So, but what he was saying is he was showing me how these beings they call the Vinkalla, and whether they're reptilian or it's really hard to identify exactly what they are. There are times when it feels like they were some kind of locust or something too. I really wasn't sure, but it's this white noise that I was hearing. It was like a white noise. It's an undertone, and it was affecting it was preventing them from thinking clearly and operating and communicating telepathically as they did naturally. And so it disrupted their network of communication so that they became fragmented as individuals. And likewise, I believe that we are under that buzz, and so some ways you see some people are going in this direction, some in the other. Some people are talking about the same thing, but they don't recognize it. And I've seen that happen so many times. And so he's saying that kind of was showing me, this white noise energy that was coming in was the same type of issue that they had. The difference was that, our population did not identify these beings when they appeared, maybe, who knows, thousands of years ago. I just saw this image, of this ancient Chinese drawing of an unidentified, what looks like a reptilian. And so, it's possible that years ago, these beings that Andronicus is referring to as a Vinkalla showed up for a long time ago. It's just that we never really cataloged it, or we forgot about it, or we kind of put it aside because then they disappeared and thought it was, a fable or a fabrication of something. But they were actually interacting with them regularly. They were actually in their servitude. They became their slaves or prisoners in this prison state that they were living in, and that's exactly what it looked like. We're clearly not in that state, which is great, but to some degree that we still are affected by this influence. He was saying, though it's much more subtle than what he was experiencing. It's more in the background, and so to break that up, he encouraged us to tone, to make sounds, to use the crystal bowls or the gongs or any type of cymbals or something that would break up this energy and to clear your space, and then you can better meditate, communicate with your inner knowing, and continue to work in this area so that people can start to come together as a unified group, and then get things and make the changes that are necessary as a collective. Does that make sense?
Good one. Yes, because it's a there's I'll drop that train of thought because it's the main thing is that I'm going on about is this this yeast thing, it's part of the subtle control. Now, the things they call Vinkalla, my personal identification of them is Archon. This is what I'm sensing when they're talking about the qualities of these beings, that they're Archons, and that they can appear as different things. They're shapeshifters, and they can appear to create a world in the mist, out of the mist.
Yeah.
You see, this is, and it's what they feed on that we have to be cognizant of, because if you have a problem with a creature, then it's because the creature's got you've got some food that the creature's eating, and you might be the food, or your emotions might be the food. And there's this thing that they call loosh, which is the kind of collected together emotional expression of people. And apparently it is it's not only used as a food source, but it's like collected and traded on the galactic stock markets. It's weird.
How do they do that?
Have you seen Jupiter ascending yet?
Yeah.
There you go. That's what, that's the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, what the guy was holding in that bottle was the raw, pure chi life energy, or the distilled pure chi life energy. But there are other energies, because he was saying, it's known as this, that, or the other, these different brand names, Rejuvelax or something. Or Abraxas. Abraxas was the name of the house, wasn't it? It was Abraxalax or something. Some sort of a brand, just like Kellogg's or a brand. And there are different grades of this stuff. Like there are different kinds of alcohol. There's champagne. There's Perry. there's beer. There's whiskey. They're all different kinds of alcohol, different flavours, and you can buy them all different ones in a shop, can't you? You can go to a shop and say, I want a bottle of that and a bottle of this. Yeah? So those beings on a fourth dimensional predatory civilization type situation, such as you might find, presumably have some kind of analogous situation to a alcohol shop. What we call, I think you call it a liquor store. We call it an off license for some strange reason. Off license. We have a very off license. It's all about licensing. Yeah, normally illegal, but we'll let you do it if you pay us money. That's what a license is. That is exactly what a license is.
An extra fee.
Yes, it's like the powers that be, who are basically a mafia, creaming their little cut of the fact that you're in their domicile. You're in their domain, their manor.
Yeah. So the impression that I also got too, JP, was here these beings were here, and then they would disappear, or they would show up, and then they would influence, and those that had the money and had the power were being guided, literally being guided, almost hypnotically. Like, I didn't feel that even the people that were truly human were 100% conscious of what they were doing. It was almost like, what human being would deliberately think that it's a good idea to frack,
Exactly. Exactly.
It's the most hostile, suicidal action on our planet. in addition to so many other things that they're doing, like, let's experiment with the atom bomb and see what happens, or, I mean, it's just, some of this stuff's absurd. Let's create, these abnormal tears in the upper atmosphere, and let's hope that we all stick together, maybe put some Elmer's glue on it, sew it up, or, putting chemicals into the air to fight people. And it's going to just stay contained in that one little area, and, who would think that it would actually travel through wind or travel through any other means, all these, the whole thing is just so absurd. And so, these are not thinking people. These are people that are powerful people, making powerful, intelligent, educated people, making these decisions. It defies gravity. It defies logic. Why are they doing it? And,
no one in their right mind.
Yeah.
But they're not in their right mind, that's it.
No, it's the emperor has no clothing. Wake up.
That's right. So, to that end, let's wave at Jude and say, hey, shall we?
Yes. Hey, Jude.
Welcome back. Jess, are you back?
Yes.
There you are. Hello, we're back.
Here we are, having a discussion about the transmission of Andronicus, the fourth transmission that he had, and talking about, us taking back the power. Maybe, JP, do you want to share some of the stuff that you said in response to what I said before we went into break with the Beatles song, Hey Jude?
Well, let's see if I can remember it, because it just all flowed out really perfectly. I'll probably not be able to get it in a kind of sensible form, but I'll see what I can do. When we were looking at the things that he'd said, the first thing that I noticed he said was like, we're talking about the body and about eating meat and your body environment, and then he talked about the planetary environment, and you were talking about how can we regain our planet, and they would say you must be diligent to speak forth and always inform others about abuses, and we're a station of whistleblowers, so yeah, we're on course with that. This puts them on hold and keeps them from doing further injuries to the planet. So if people do talk about it, yeah, it's good to talk about it. It's good to spread news about it. Your voices, your images shared amongst each other, that's Facebook, help keep a watchful eye over the planet. Unfortunately, the Vinkalla have been doing this damage for some time, and now you may feel this is a race to catch up, and some things cannot be recovered, or so you believe this to be the case. All right, so the first thing is the idea of a permanent poison situation. Because there's a lot of things, like they say, the half-life of radioactivity is 20,000 years, and it'll never be all right. I think what they're talking about is that it's possible that things could be fixed a lot quicker. The idea of Fukushima. What else is it? There's the problems with Fukushima. There's problems with earthquakes going on. There's problem with volcanoes and all these gases. There's problems with fracking, and the poisoning of water, and there's no clean water anywhere, and all this stuff. The
dumping of oil, which seems to conveniently happen on occasion.
Yeah. And all of this stuff. Ocean. It's let's just poop here somewhere, because that's Dick. That's Dick Cheney. He's in charge of all that stuff. Halliburton were the last people. Halliburton is Dick Cheney's company, right? Halliburton were the last people to touch, guess what? The cap of the well in the Gulf of Mexico. It was Dick Cheney's people were the last people to touch that. Okay? They're responsible. Directly. So, I like to name names because he's for it. He's probably well tagged. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, you may feel it's a race to catch up and some things cannot be recovered, or so you believe this to be the case. And what he's saying is, they can be recovered, you just don't believe it. So, let's not worry. I think the key is, let's not worry about what's been done. Let's just keep finding out what has happened. Because, if we have faith in our infinite abilities, then we can fix anything. Nothing is incurable. Nothing is unfixable. If one person can do something amazing, what happens when 12 people get together? All like Andronicus and his people, they get together, they connect with the planet, and the planet does it. That's what the planet's for. That's why it's called a mother. I need this. There you go. Thank you. That's what the mother does. You plant your seed, it comes up. It takes a certain amount of time, or it might not, depending on what frequency band you're working on. You may have a thought, and it might come back as a thought in a few microseconds.
And there are solutions out there that people have, and they're being repressed from putting that information out there. And if more people demand that this information is shared amongst the world population, the internet has made this possible. And as they happen, people are posting things that they never did before. How to create your own free energy, how to, change some things. Well, certain mushrooms that can absorb certain chemicals or oils. There's all these type of things that the information's out there. So we are gaining solutions. And from what Andronicus is saying, some of his people are coming in to incarnate, or the children that are coming in are either highly evolved and have gone through the karmic cycle multiple times and have just a much higher consciousness, and they're coming in and they're going to have answers, or they are from Andromeda, or they are from these other star seeds that are here with a higher knowledge of technology and how to restore, regain, and refurbish whatever, or even reset some of our injuries that we've done to our planet, which is our home. And unless we are at a point where we can, get up and move easily to another planet that's already habitable and has all the amenities, as we do on planet Earth right now, having the appropriate type of, the water that we need, everything that we need for sustenance, whether it's food, air, water. I don't know how easily that is to discover another location that's similar to our existing planet and go live there. So since we don't have the ability to do that, like we move from house to house, or we move from state to state, or country to country, we can't easily move from planet to planet. So something has to change. And I know that there are people doing it on a community level. They're definitely doing it. Things have changed in the past 20 years. Things are in existence now that didn't exist. We are still dependent on fossil fuels. Unfortunately, we are still dependent on, we are still relying on food sources that have GMOs. We are still creating hybrids with our seeds. We're still putting all sorts of stuff into our meats, and the air quality and all these different things that are happening. So some of these things has to change. The chemtrails has to stop. All of these things have to be adjusted. And he does reference the Georgia Guidestones, which is something that I was directed to a couple years ago. I was out in Atlanta, Georgia, and someone had told me about the Guidestones. I had a hard time believing that they existed, where they actually list a cap on the planet on how many people are allowed to live here. And the big question is, who has presented this idea, and what are they actually saying? Are they saying that that they are going to eliminate the population? Are they saying that they're planning a world massive war, World War III? Are they saying that only their relatives have the right to survive? I mean, what exactly are they saying? So when I drove out to that location, which is in a very remote sort of area, not really, not a lot of signs leading up to it. I used my GPS to get there. And when I got there, it was like one person there. It was huge monoliths, huge, written in every single language. So, guess what? Just to let you know, whatever country that you come from, you'll be able to read and realize that you may not be one of those that are included in this projected population scenario. So, but just to make sure, we even have it in ancient languages as well, and I think they have it in Sanskrit. It's just bizarre. And my experience was I went out there and there was one person there, and so I'm looking at it and reading it, and I literally, my heart went out to the universe. My heart went out to Source, and I said, "There's something wrong, and I don't know what's going on here." And out of nowhere, all of these people showed up, and this one group of people showed up, and there was this one guy wearing these very futuristic-looking goggles. I don't know what he was doing there, why he was there. And they were this family or group of people, maybe they weren't even related, but they were definitely working very closely together, were moving around me as if I was not visible, like transparent. They would say something, I'd say something to them or try to acknowledge them, and they would talk past me. It was the strangest experience that I've ever seen. I don't know who these people were. Others arrived on motorcycles, people that looked too old to be driving motorcycles. The whole thing was strange. And then it got to a point where I felt like I needed to leave. But it's on private land, but open to the public. And I highly recommend anyone look online and read what this whole philosophy. I should probably pull it up and read a little bit about what it says. But Andronicus mentions this in this last transmission. So, have you ever heard of the Georgia Guidestones?
Oh yeah, I got this. There was I had to do a thing with Sean when I was producing for him of a piece about the good Georgia Guidestones, and there's this other little controversy that happened. Was it last year? Yeah, I think it's about August last year or something. Somebody put a piece in the Guidestone. There was like right up in the top. There was a little cube missing. Or so it appeared, or it appeared one day that there was a little cube missing, and then there was another event when there was a cube put in there. And then there's another event which was filmed, which was some guy taking the cube out. And he was there, the people saying how he's sleep. There was a little cylinder in that, and there was information inside this little cylinder or something like that. So yeah. There's all sorts of weird little stories and legends going on around the Georgia Guidestones. But as you say, 500 million people top, so that they can walk around like they own the place, like they got it to themselves. That's exactly why.
That's rule number one. The message of the Georgia Guidestones. Of course, no one is claiming to be the one that put this together, but maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. So now they add nature to it, right? Like, this is for the betterment of the earth, right?
Yeah, our nature, yeah.
Yeah, isn't it wonderful that they've identified that it's only their nature? It's, the rest of the population doesn't deserve to be here to experience that. Number 2 is guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Okay, that sounds wonderful. Unite humanity with living new language.
Well, hang on a second. That doesn't sound wonderful. That's what we call eugenics.
Okay.
And if you think of the Nazis, that's exactly the sort of civilization they want. You know, everybody to be happy and fit and joyful, and like North Korea. Just like that's exactly fascist reality.
So it's all due.
It's all a facade. You see?
It's a facade because, you know, we're the elite race or whatever they're trying to. But number 3, unite humanity with a living new language. Now we have one world order, right, and one language.
Yeah. So what language is that going to be? Might be Mandarin.
Yes.
That'd be surprising, wouldn't it? If it was Mandarin Chinese.
Well, yeah. I mean, everyone thinks well, that's wonderful. Well, of course, it would be English. You know. Really? It could be literally anything. We don't
and
really
Swahili with lots of...
Yeah. Okay, now they get, you know, like, sensible, ruled, passion. So you're going to rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. So it's under pseudo-religion?
Well, according to whose balance, according to whose benchmarks, these...
whose reason?
What is reasonable? What means reasonable?
Faith.
You know?
What is their concept of faith? Killing people?
Yeah, where is the heart?
Yeah. Number 5, protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Okay.
Well, once again, fair. Is it only fair to them? Is it only just us? Not justice, but just us. Those who are in power. In the party. You know, it's the whole party and out in the party or out of the party. Whether it's communist or fascist or Nazi or this or that, you're in or you're out of this little party. And you toe the party line and you do the party things and you do politically correct. Because today's party is the whole politically correct. I'm going to change my Facebook page to a rainbow. I'm going to follow the crowd. I follow the memes. A meeple. A meme sheeple is a meeple. Sorry. I'm getting terribly judgmental about it.
Well, I think under the, you know, they're trying to use a situation that I think has to do with gay marriages, which is fine. People are embracing that part of it, but I think the actual intent was not to embrace that, which is misleading. They were just trying to manipulate and see how many people they could get to, you know, do what they were asking them to do.
Exactly. It's well, you know, it's like, let's see how many people are going to follow this meme. Oh, look at that. That great. That got a good response.
Power we have now. Yeah. It's not right, especially with something that's very meaningful to people. Some people that, you know, their life is very connected to this, you know, to their expression and, you know, their relationships. So
still gorgeous Guidestones, the Georgia Guidestones. What more do they want from us?
Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court.
Well, actually, that sounds fair enough. You know, whether it's, you know, we need to rule ourselves, but why do we need to have a single, you know, because we got different people, you know, why judge one according to where is the central law going to be coming from? And is it going to be a law that is based on, for instance, the Bible, which is how our law is based? You know? Right. So, do we impose our Bible on, say, Taoists, or Muslims, or Zoroastrians, or Mayans, or, you know, or whatever the heck? You know, you can't take one small group and say, yeah, we represent everybody, because you really don't. You know?
Right, but if you're diminishing the population down to only their people, so then that makes it
a lot easier. Yeah, if you want to make rules that apply to one group, then just really, but the trouble is that our one group's only like high, as you were saying, like 500 million and less, you know. Yeah. So let's just, I want to talk about Andronicus's, your planet is at a crossroad, he said. Yes. You have two potential realities. One, your Earth and many of your inhabitants are destroyed through wars and environmental incidents. This is the reason why we directed you to visit the Georgia Guidestones, to see their intent, decrease the population. If they destroy the upper atmosphere, your civilization that is left will have to find refuge in caves or underground cities. Right. So, timeline, I think they call this timeline 2. The New World Order timeline.
Yes.
All right.
And that's where the living new language. Unite humanity with the living new language. I mean, this is getting back to the ancient Babylon. Tower of Babel, Nimrod. And, getting everyone to, well, they end up becoming...
What if the living new language was German?
Yeah. That's very possible.
German is very good at adding new words. It's just Lego language. You just clamp one thing onto the back of another and let the glue set, and it'll be a new word within seconds. Übergruppenführer.
Okay, number 7. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. These are the ones, the laws and officials that whoever created this are not in agreement with. I'm assuming.
Well, to avoid petty laws, it's like, these local councils, they really don't, there's no point in having local laws. There's no point in having rules in societies. Let's just make it. Let's just make.
How important I am. I can speed. I can not obey the traffic laws, which are sensible because they're petty laws now because it's me driving now. That's
right. It's basically one of us can do any of these things, and all of you just have to comply.
Yes.
Or we kill you. That's it. There's no choice. It's called Hobson's choice. But
we're one over that 500 million, and we decided that you need to go.
All right. So we've also seen the Hunger Games. All right.
Yes.
And who gets to be one of the 500 million? Is it a lottery? Oh yeah, let's make it a lottery. Let's make it a battle. Let's make it a battle to see who survives. Let's put it on telly.
Now, not only do we get to get rid of all these people, but we actually get to watch them destroy each other. So now it's entertainment.
And the loose futures of the audience watching Hunger Games. Imagine. All right, so, sorry, I went a bit quick there. Loose futures. You know what futures market is? They have the gold futures and the oil futures.
Okay.
So, for instance, how much gold is going to be worth? So, I buy gold at like $10, 6 months' time. And so, if gold is like $12 in 6 months' time, because I bought it at $6, I can take it at $6. So that's playing the futures market. So people have loose futures. There are loose futures markets in these dark places where people trade in loose. Yes, it's not nice. It's just not nice at all. The details. The details are not nice. It seems all very clean and clear on the top, but like all Nazi society, there is a suffering, grinding underclass that is being tortured and maimed all the time in order to support the society. And that can't happen. That is not the way a planet likes to have its consciousness.
You don't fit into what we perceive as, being the right group of people, then you're disposable. And no value of human life, existence, no value on the soul, no value of animal life, no value of anything.
No value of life. It's a death situation.
It's a devoid and lacking consciousness. And that's the part we have to raise.
Well, look, here's the thing. It's a death consciousness, Jess.
Yes.
All right. Now, I had a message from my guides a couple of years back, and they said, stop eating death. Do you understand what they mean now?
Yes.
Yeah. This is how he very clearly spoke about, it's about your diet.
Yes, he did.
And essentially, right, there's blood and there's chlorophyll. They're the same molecule, except one, I think, is molybdenum, and the other is iron. Yeah? Mm-hmm. And I don't know whether it's molybdenum. I don't think it is. I'll find out. I'll check it out in a few minutes. But essentially, chlorophyll is the blood from green things. So, and there's much less pain involved and much less consciousness, and they're quite happy to do it, and you can say thank you to them, and, you know, that'll do, you know. You can say thank you to your salad and have a happy day. There's a lot more karma involved in a creature who's spent his life munching grass. And like he was saying, you know, I don't know if you caught this one, but he said that the creatures that lived in the environment that they had are not very palatable. They're like, you know, scrawny. They're not fat. They're you know, there's no grass.
No,
what do they look like?
It looked more like some kind of like a hard-shelled lizard, or I'm trying to think of some kind of like small little
armadillo,
reptilian, you know, creature, four-legged.
Armadillo sort of thing?
Something like a what?
Armadillo.
Could be like an armadillo or something. Yeah, it just looked like it was, you know, definitely a rough, like a turtle, or you know, it was something there that just really
something
didn't look,
for harsh domains.
Yeah.
Protection against harsh domains.
Yeah.
So
that's what it looked like.
Yeah. So you wouldn't want to eat them anyway. So, well, obviously there's some sort of you know, very popular green stuff on the planet that'll.
And we have access to all that.
Yeah. And it seemed, you know, it doesn't seem to be that much of an issue about their food. Do you see what I mean? I mean, here we are, you know, we go out for a meal and we choose the different food that we have, and it's like, what a waste of time. What a strange ceremony that these people are going through. Knocked it over again. This strange ceremony that they're going through, choosing their food. You know, why don't you just drink one thing like we do? You know, it's like, what are you bothering about?
Yeah, and, you know, and they seemed to be enjoying it. They were fulfilled, and it was giving them energy. There wasn't a lack in any respect.
Anyway, so that's timeline 2. And then he talks about timeline 1. The other possibility for your civilization is that you flourish and take back your planet through better practices towards the planet and more peaceful living. You may begin to realize that there are more environmentally minded people around you now. This has altered the life path of many who are getting into better practices and more mindful intentions of lifestyle in this direction. Some have become the guides to how living closer to sustainable lifestyle is possible. And I you know, when I read that, I thought, yeah, that's what I'm doing. You know,
yeah, you are.
That's why, you know, that's where I'm looking. I'm squeezing, you know, gracefully backing out of the rest of the world. So,
you're growing your own food.
Yep.
You're using local wood to to heat your home. You know, that there have been. I was just recently looking at, you know, some of these communities where people are, you know, finding their own water, living near untainted rivers, and just figuring out what to do with waste, creating some kind of a mulch or humus or whatever it is that you put back into the soil for growth. I mean, there's a lot of different types of ways that people are learning to thrive. And then there were a gathering of people that I was observing, and there were, one person grew this crop and another person grew another crop, and at dinner time they just gathered together and shared what they had. So I know this is kind of old-fashioned and archaic, but the people that do this, that are practicing this lifestyle, that are interacting with community in a healthy way instead of fighting with their neighbors, will very likely thrive in the event that anything does happen. Now, we have natural occurrences. I mean, there are things that we're doing to our planet blatantly, in search of fuels and other things that we're harming our planet and playing around with wars and chemicals and so forth. But in the event that, something actually does come from the cosmos, and now you have, something that, like a stray, piece of, whatever is out there, asteroid or something that hits our planet, before you know it, we have some issues. But it's people, it's not just perfecting the planet, but it's learning to communicate and interact and figure out ways to help one another, because as an individual we'll struggle, but as a group we can thrive. And so it's just thinking more the way that we originally were. I think he's trying to get us to think and reset our thinking back to the way that early man, was able to thrive and civilize, and to grow in civilization. When they went out and they hunted in groups. They didn't just do it as individuals. People learned to, whatever someone gathered and brought in, they all shared with the group. And so I'm not saying that, let's go back to that point where everyone's just sitting around, although if you do choose to do so, you might find that it's rewarding in a lot of ways. So I don't really know what the answer is, but these are some of the possibilities, and that's what he started making me think about.
So, interesting that because he's the crossroads, and I'm just reminded of a lot of crop circles at the moment have this cross in the middle of them. Have you noticed that? There's this one that had what looked like a kind of combination Celtic or Chinese design with these kind of little quadrant spirals that go down, and Nikki, my girlfriend, took that as that's one of her logos now, so I digitized that and made that for her. So there's a lot of new symbols that are coming through that are having this cross, and it's like you have a choice.
Yeah. Is it the cross? Is it equal-sided cross, or is it like the Christian cross?
It's the solar cross, the equal-sided cross.
Okay. Yeah, so that would pick crossroad. And the spiral, which is interesting because at the end of the transmission from Andronicus, I literally saw an asteroid belt, or a spiraling asteroid belt going around. And I watched it, and I got the perspective as if I was with him in his travel. Like I felt like I was observing him in a spacecraft moving through this asteroid belt. I couldn't see the craft, I couldn't see him, but I just got that sensation of movement. And that was my view, as if I was looking through a window and watching as we were traveling through, that space. So that's how it ended, and that's why I mentioned it at the end of the transmission, almost in parentheses, like this is what's going on.
Right, hang on. So you were positioned inside, say, you were looking as if from a spaceship.
And
you could see planets below you?
It looked like, it almost looked like a spiral, like you had mentioned. So you said the crossroads, and then a spiral. And so what I wrote was I watched a field of meteors circling in a spiral formation, not exactly sure what I was looking at. I also had the impression that they were traveling. So traveling through this belt, or maybe that's part of the Andromeda sector, is this swirling belt, and it was a field of meteors, or what they are. So it's interesting that you brought that up about the crop circles, because the cross and the spiral, are both something that were mentioned in the transmission.
Yep. Interesting.
He also brought up the solar field, the 33-1-8 upper regions beyond the solar field. 2 sentient levels of sequential time quarters. So quarters. 4 sections. I saw this kind of box, looking square box object, 4-sided object. It was a UFO that was identified over Texas.
Oh yes, the Texas Black Cube. What do you see in that?
I don't know. I mean, it was really strange. And the sequential time quarters, so it's a 4-sided something of non-linear reality. And so then he said, for those searching for our status and coordinates. But it was 2 sentient levels of sequential time. The quarters of non-linear reality. I don't know exactly what he was. But I think all of these things are indications and clues. And
yeah. Right, so let's just break that down a bit. Okay, so 3318, upper regions beyond the solar field. What would be this solar field? It may be a coordinate from our perspective.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then it says 2 sentient. Yeah, I think that is 2 sentient levels of sequential time quarters of non-linear reality. So sequential time quarters. So a time quarter. So what would be a quarter of a time be? What would the whole time be?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 2 sentient levels of sequential time quarters. So perhaps time and sentience are connected in some way. That as you experience time, so as your level of sentience changes, your experience of time changes. Now, isn't that interesting? Yes. Because it says for those searching for our status and our coordinates. So the status is there are 2 sentient levels of sequential time quarters above us, I think, in terms of how more advanced they are spiritually.
Yeah, or
something.
Distance, letting us know where we're at. Maybe someone can calculate some of this stuff. I don't know exactly, but I think that you might be onto something.
Yeah, well, something's going on there. I haven't really looked at the different ones, and yes, we should gather these together and keep.
Maybe someone is good at looking at coordinates. I know that we have the Google Earth, but maybe this is not applicable to the Earth.
Yeah, it might be sky. It might be sky references.
Yes.
What they call right ascension. Have you ever heard that term, right ascension?
No, I haven't. It's
what astronomers use, and it's measured in hours, minutes, and seconds. So, but it may be backwards. So it could be 8 hours, 1 minute, 33 seconds. And what that is if you're looking for spatial coordinates, you need to have a circular coordinate. So they use the coordinate of the clock. So just like an hour. So, So let's say that they're saying 8 hours of right ascension, and then they have what's the other term? Oh God, got it right. I probably got it round the wrong way. Let me just check on the
yes, sentient levels of sequential time quarters of nonlinear reality.
Okay, let's just search under position.
And the upper regions beyond the solar field.
Declination, that's the word. Declination and right ascension are the technical terms for how you find something in space relative to the point that you're at. And right ascension, RA. So let's just look at, there's 8 hours. I'm just going to plug it in here, just literally as we speak. I have a star program called Stellarium. It's free, you can get it anywhere. 33.
While you're setting that up, I wanted to finish off with this Georgia Guidestones, and because I think the last statement is probably the most striking. They mention, prize truth, beauty, love, and seeking harmony with the infinite, which is very masking. The last one, number 10, be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. So they're justifying this by saying that some people in their interpretation is being a cancer on the earth.
Yeah.
So, that this is the Georgia Guidestones. It exists. It is in a specific county in Georgia. If someone ever wanted to go take a look at it and see it for themselves, I don't know. Disturbing, to say the least. I mean, if they're going to put up monuments, why don't they put up something that is beneficial to the earth, not self-apparently serving? Okay. As you're looking at those coordinates too, I want to just read a quick something from my book, Macabre, Short Stories and Poems from the Other Side. And a lot of this stuff is, stories that were channeled, short stories, some of them about the metaphysical, some of them are, all of them have a sort of moral to the story, but one of them is a poem that I wrote called The Emotionless Ones, and is the image of the structure that looks like a face on Mars. And so it goes like this, a quiet stare, still they don't care. They were taught to hide their feelings because of fear. Don't look back, learn to laugh. The mass emotion has controlled everyone at last. Follow us, learn to trust. We will lead you like blind sheep to the butcher's shop. What else can we do? The mass population tells us what to do. We stand back and be polite, or choose to make our own decisions, to know what to do. What many plans of mass destruction, what many controls from the powerful media. Push the controls, push the buttons, push out the ideas of all creativity, push out the laughter of true sincerity, push out the will from all individuality, push out the sense of existence from all humanity. And what else can they do to prevent release from this mind-controlled fantasy? Push down the emotions, push down the fears, push out all humanity because no one else cares. Then one awakens. Then two see their own fears. Then three have been shaken to begin to care. Then four think of self-ownership and that all their decisions are theirs. Then five arrive at peace because the universe still cares. Then six, then seven, we have now made our earth, our heaven, each exercising his right to see and act as if he has more insight. Then thousands of millions, hundreds of billions become who they were meant to be without any restrictions. Finally, the end can be what we never imagined. All humanity flourishes as if we were never felt the fall from the garden. So that's The Emotionless Ones from my book, Macabre, Short Stories and Poems from the Other Side. Anyhow, how are the coordinates doing? Did you?
Okay, so what I did, I've just plugged in 8 hours, 11 minutes, 33 seconds as right ascension. Now, what that means is that then you have to scoot round the whole degree thing. Now, that's interesting, 481.12, because the first communication, he says, the Andromeda section 481.12. So every time he's giving a different sort of coordinate. Let's see, part 3. Look down the bottom here. It says there's another one, 32.138.42, from origins unknown to new horizons of planetary restoration. So it may actually be a time coordinate, i.e. a date, from his perspective. Because the longitude and latitude are set, we are on our way. Star of Copernicus vehicle, Ventura Nova. Elysiad surface, awaiting your tangible mass quadrant vehicle for resurfacing.
When that part came up, I almost felt like I was listening to someone. You know, you have a conversation with a person and then they're talking to someone next to them. Or they were speaking to maybe another craft, spacecraft, and they were traveling. I felt like I was listening to them and then they were communicating.
Tangible mass quadrant. Right? Tangible mass is stuff you can touch. Dense enough you can touch. So, what it's saying here is saying that quadrant, in their terms, is something to do with their level of density, in terms of how tangible their molecules are. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So how ethereal they may be. So, there we go. Star of Copernicus, again, referring to stars. I'm just looking for part 4, part 3. Where's part 2? Can't find part 2. Did you send that as a document? You must have somewhere.
Part 2. You wanted to see the way that was constructed as well.
Just the thing at the end, the coordinate.
Yep.
I'm just looking for the file that you sent me, but I can't seem to find it here.
Okay. Just open that up.
See if we can find it.
You're looking for part 2?
Is it part? Yeah, part 2.
Part 2 coordinates that were in the end. Sector 1-8-52 coordinates 350-8A. Transmission above the asteroid field 1-8. And so he's in different locations. So it's like he's traveling while he's...
Right. Okay. 1-8-52.
1-8-52, and then coordinates 350-8A.
I was putting 350. This one I'll take. Use the right keyboard. So let's take that to 350. That's going to take a little while to spin round to 350. But you never know. It might not. This might be just completely random rubbish that we're entering into. It's like garbage in, garbage out. You know, you never know where this might lead. I'm currently witnessing a spinning star field in front of me on this screen. It's great. 320,
really? Like from the coordinates?
Yeah, I'm just scooting around the coordinate. There we go. 352. Oh, right. Well, there's an area of nothing. What's happening? Oh. Again, that's taken us. That's right. That's interesting. So it's 350 and what? And 8.
A 1 and an 8 in 52.
Interesting.
Supposedly that's sector coordinates, or is it 350-8A is the sector?
All right. Well, zooming into that point is a whole bunch of nothing. There's a very, very dark. There's a dark, dark place somewhere in the vicinity of Procyon. M48. Yeah. Now it's very interesting that Procyon has apparently according to Tolek, Procyon has released itself from the grip of the reptilians in the last 12 years. Then. So there may be some connection there that they may be analogous to. So yeah, there's lots of this going on.
Well, that's interesting because someone brought up Tolek today.
Did they?
Interesting, yeah, very, very interesting. Could be that all of the systems are being released, and they've found their exit out. And Andromeda, from the impression and what's being stated in all these transmissions, were supposedly our guardians to some degree. They were here to support us. And so the part that we didn't really discuss a whole lot is that there are other systems that are supporting us with providing information, like technology advancements. Information that we're using for creating bombs or creating chemicals or whatever. We're creating.
Whenever you give them something, they'll weaponize it.
Well, the intention is they're helping us to evolve and to become. It's like our technology with computers. So we're taking it, and it's really neutral. So whatever sector is sending us that information is sending us that information, and the Andromedan group is supposed to be giving us guidance on how to use that. They've been absent because of the Vinkalla disrupting their experience and essentially putting them into a slave race scenario. So that was going on, but the other group that was sending the information for advancement in technology, which is actually a part of our evolution, part of our expansion, and the part of our consciousness, because beyond the earth at some point, when we get everything together and we understand humanity from a higher consciousness perspective, then we're better equipped and entrusted with the use of this higher technology, because it may come to a point where we're moving intergalactically. And then we're able to handle that at some point. As of right now, the ones that are moving intergalactically don't have the consciousness, and it's just stirring things up and creating more problems. So we need the higher consciousness to be in control of that. But meanwhile, the information's coming in for the technology, but we need the consciousness. And so now we have Andromeda supporting us, and hopefully that helps us to balance things out a bit, if that makes sense.
I think it does, and I think really that's a good place to leave this. Somewhere near Procyon. Procyon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
was that all the coordinates, or just one of?
That's just like the 8 hours. The one that looked like a right ascension coordinate. You see, if you look at a bunch of numbers and you see 2312, you can say, well, that looks like that could be a time. We measure things by 24-hour clocks. And so you see the sort of domain that the numbers live in, and sort of guess what that might be, if you see what I mean. But I mean, I'm piddling about. Don't mind me, kind of thing. I'm just yes, it's random.
No, it's not random, because I think you actually did. I think you did identify something where you said that you just verified that Tolek claimed that area was just liberated. So that does coordinate with this. And since Tolek just came up today, I don't really know anything about who Tolek is. I have no idea who he is. I've never listened to any of this stuff. So I had no influence or comment either way, positive or negative, or just any type of input. But now that you bring it up, I'm seeing why I saw it. and it might make sense, but I just wanted to ask before we exit, was this one coordinate of the other, there were other coordinates that you haven't looked at yet, is that correct?
Well, like I said, I just threw that one into Solarium because it looked like a right extension. Oh, still getting problems. You might lose me soon. I might need to. We need to finish this show anyway.
Finish the show. Yep.
But I was just getting a disconnection event there. But anyway, we'll be. I'll be back. I'm going to play a replay of because the next show has kind of lapsed a bit. I'm going to play a replay of Gary the Numbers Guy speaking to me a long time ago. I just see what it's like. Just really there.
That's the next show coming up.
Yeah, we're doing random numbers today. It's a random number day. So 23, 47, 56, and 13.
Right. Thank you so much, JP, and thank you for allowing us to share the information from Andronicus, and I hope that it may be enlightening and help to some degree and help people think. And remember, we're all interconnected. It's been a wonderful day.
How do people get you?
They can get to me at www.readingsbyariel.com. That's ARAEL. And thanks for listening to Answers from the Universe. Have a wonderful day.